that can translate the criminal justice degree to a business side. And so Grant is an example of that. Some of you who may have ever been interested in business and translating your degrees into business somehow, he's a real interesting example of that, and local here in Colorado Springs. So I'm here to tell you about his work, his business, and history. Grant Linhart, please help me welcome him.
Thank you. So as Katie said, I'm Grant Linhart. I'm from ICS of Colorado. We are a nationwide private investigation firm. I'm fortunate enough to run the Colorado office of that. We're a nationwide firm. And my background came from law enforcement, a little bit of public safety on the other side, on the fire side as well. And that led to where I'm at now, to where I'm running this office, but I also still work in it. And I have several folks that work for me. And then we used to have a college program, an intern program out of Metro State. I'll explain what happened to that program here in a minute. But that's where I come from. And so we're going to kind of journey down a little bit about how I got here and how it reflects with you folks when you come out of school and you've got criminal justice degrees and so forth. What can you do with it? Where should you go with it? I'll give you my insight to that and recommendation. You can take it as a grain of salt because there's lots of different places you folks can go. And then I got some war stories, some actual cases that have happened. We're very fortunate that we're busy, so there's a lot of different case types that we do. We'll kind of explore those things so you can see some of the craziness and some of the actual real world stuff that's actually good. So everyone in here, just so I know the crowd, is primarily criminal justice students. Is there any other education types in here?
Music.
Music, okay. Anybody else? Are you looking to go criminal justice? Is that the...
I'm thinking about it.
Okay, I say yay. All right, so ICS of Colorado. We have a big, long, fancy name if you saw it underneath. It's International Counterintelligence Services of Colorado. It's a long name. It started in 1967. We'll go through that in just a second. But our office actually sits in Denver, and then we've got assets in kind of some mini locations that aren't really publicized throughout the state. One is in the Springs. It keeps our overhead low, doing it that way. Our mission statement, which will reflect to you folks, and hopefully you'll agree when we're done, our mission is to provide professional investigations, physical security, and firearms training, because we do have those niches because of my background. Anywhere in the world at any time, we can pull that off, and report our findings in a timely and accountable manner. Report writing, when I was a student, I hated to write, but it's key in this field, especially criminal justice. If you go into law, if you go into police work, you have to be able to write. So go to your English classes, okay? I struggled there for a while. While upholding the highest levels of integrity. We're going to put, dispel some misnomers about investigations. Integrity is huge for me. If any of my guys don't have integrity or our clients lie to us, we're done. And we're fortunate enough that we can pull those plugs, okay? We have to have that, okay? A little bit about the company itself, ICS. It is nationwide. It started in 1967 in Arizona. The son of the original founder is running the ship from that location. And then I have the Denver location, and we've got offices around the country. Some specialize, and some don't. One of our specialties, we also bring physical security and consulting because of my law enforcement background. Those realms are kind of broad. It includes some types of security training, more from a consulting standpoint and a strategy threat assessment standpoint. Firearms training falls underneath that as well. And then some of our other offices will do forensics. They'll specialize in accident reconstruction, things of that nature. But our specialty, besides primarily investigations, we also do the security, physical security component. We have a huge local presence in the U.S. We also have an international, well, the international stuff is run from our Arizona office. They are set up to handle all of our assets around the world. And so they'll facilitate several cases, lots of cases, from that location. There's almost no place we can't touch in the world. A lot of that, though, when it goes international, we ship it to Arizona and let those guys run it. And then there are a few countries that, for whatever reason, we have a connection with them. We do operate with them. So that's kind of awesome to have the international footprint. It can be complicated, though, because of laws and in different countries' politics. It can make things interesting. Some of the industries we serve in investigations, private investigations, obviously attorneys and lawyers, we do lots of things for those guys. A lot of it's compartmentalized, and we'll talk about what that is. The financial services, human resources, insurance companies, that's another big one. The entertainment industry, business owners, large and small. We have lots of little businesses that are our clients, and we have lots of large businesses that are our clients as well. We do some things in the security industry. The trucking industry is one. Another, that's a niche market, but a huge numbers in trucking. All our supplies, everything that we use as people come from trucks, right? They got to get here somehow. So there's a lot of work that we do with those folks, mainly from a theft and fraud standpoint. The medical services occasionally, and then the state of Colorado, we have a contract with those folks, and we'll talk about that too here in a little bit. We also serve people besides businesses and entities. Regular folks, you guys, your parents, any walk of life may need us at some point. A lot of what people think as far as people is the cheaters or the matrimony, marital issues. That is a component. We screen those really hard because there's just a lot of stuff we don't want to get involved in because emotions cause people not to think clearly, and so we screen those, and if they're not a good case, we'll pass. Personal cases, you get sued, or you're suing someone and you have a personal beef, and it's a legal one. We may get involved if you call and need our services. Child custody issues, we do a lot of those, unfortunately. Caretaker issues, those as well. Financial crimes, internal theft, we'll do undercover employees. Those are very tricky to operate, but we do those if there's a theft ring going on. Usually it's in a warehouse type of building, like the shipping location from, let's pick Staples, okay? Inside a Staples warehouse, before it hits the retail store, there's lots of stuff going on. They're susceptible to theft rings all the time, so we'll go do an undercover employee in there. And then random civil issues, again, if you're being sued or not sued, or you work with an attorney, they may need some piece of information, they'll either call us directly on your behalf as their client, or you'll call us and we'll work in conjunction with. So almost anyone can be our client, provided it's legal and it's something that we can help them with. We don't necessarily broker information, but we investigate, dig up, go find, and retrieve information, and that's done in a lot of different ways. And depending where you're at in the criminal justice program, you might not be exposed to any of that yet, but information is key with everything. Okay, my qualifications, how ICS trusted me to come and run this office, my background, 14 years of public safety. I did some time at the Aurora Fire Department, did a little bit of arson up there, and got the investigation bug. Got the police bug in me at that point. Then went back to California, and I worked at Riverside Police Department. It's a fabulous place to work. It's 100 miles an hour every minute of the day. Learned a lot of great things. That set me up basically to be able to come here and run this office and further investigations on the civil side. While I was there, I was a field training officer, so I trained new people. I was on the bomb squad as a search team member, which meant I was expendable. I was not a technician, but they would send us and go, hey, go find it, and then we say, hey, we found it, and then the guys with the big suit would come. So if it went off, we were toast. I was a terrorism liaison officer. I was working my way into the terrorism unit because I like information. I wanted to be in that pipeline of knowing what's really going on. So that's what that position was. And then I was also on the firearms department training unit, the firearms training unit, the FTU at my department, which was a fabulous position. Teaching cops how to shoot is very difficult because they think they can and they can't. It's a train, you have to train. So same thing with civilians as well. I have various certifications in the instructor realm. Some of them are California posts that transfer to Colorado, and then various firearms instructor certs. Okay, so some other qualifications. While I was a cop in California, I had started a business on the side because it was kind of a natural progression. We started doing some bodyguard work. The real term for that is executive and dignitary protection, but everyone knows what a bodyguard is. We started doing that because I just started relationships with some business owners that were at times high profile. And they hired me for a gig. Hey, can you protect me? I'm going to go do ABC. And then it kind of expanded. And then that got me doing more work. And then it got us into the threat assessment and consulting realm using the stuff I learned as a cop. Okay? And some of it was in conjunction with the college system in California. San Diego State does a lot to do with terrorism and Department of Homeland Security teachings. And so a lot of those things just crossed over. Currently, as it says there on the top, I own and run the Colorado office for ICS. We're kind of broke up like a franchise, but they don't call it a franchise. There's certain things I have to do to stay within the ICS umbrella, but then there's a lot of things I can do on my own and branch our office out, which I have done. One of those things is bring the physical security component, because some of our offices don't have anything to do with that stuff. They don't train anyone, they don't do protection work, we do. But then there's some that do the forensics, and we just hand that off to them. But with that, we also get the resources. The ICS has built since 1967. There's a lot of things in the wheelhouse that if we can't do in our own office, we call the home office in Arizona and we can do those things. Part of the licensing, there's some licensing issues in Colorado. And we had a college call us the other day from their, I don't know what department called us, not a human resources, but they wanted to set a pipeline up for students to come through and work our office. We used to have an intern program where we kind of did that for Metro State because at the time Colorado was unlicensed. Okay, and this college that called us had no idea that that changed a year ago, June. Colorado being unlicensed, meaning anyone could say, hey, I'm an investigator. There was no credential check, there was no background, and they were just working cases. And some people, you know, they got into it and it worked for them, and others were shady, and it was a problem. So the state and some politics behind it came up with a voluntary license program. We were a part of it because I believe we should be credentialed and checked out and honest and so forth. That voluntary license program ended, and then again, Colorado was completely unlicensed, so we had the intern program. Well, when they initiated the mandatory license program that went into effect last June, they left no provision for interns, for someone that may work in the office, say answering phones from a secretary or admin point of view. There was no provision for them to work in investigations but not be licensed. Not everyone needs to be a licensed investigator that works in the office. My bookkeeper should not have to be an investigator, have a license. Well, when they made it mandatory, the verbiage was so vague but yet precise at the same time. There's no provision for our interns from college to come and work for us for a semester, and they got credit, and it was actually a pretty good deal. But because there's no provision for it, that student or that intern technically had to have a license. Well, we didn't think it was necessarily fair to require them to have a license, and the state didn't want to acknowledge it, even though several companies brought it to their attention. When they put the mandatory licensing together, almost every state in the union is licensed. And they thought they were Colorado for some reason thought they were the first ones to come up with this idea, so they didn't look at other states and go, what are they doing, and let's kind of mimic what's working. They came up with their own program, and it basically shut the door on a lot of different things. So before, in other states, I'm also licensed in California, licensing there, you could have a company license and then people work underneath you, whether it's an intern, whether it's a probationary investigator, or someone's seasoned and they can come through and work under your license. There's no provision for that either. So it effectively shut down our intern program. We haven't really revisited it, okay? It's unfortunate because we get a lot of interest from, at least up from Metro State because we were listed with them. What better way to get some knowledge and some skills to do that? So if you're politically active, hit up the state legislature because that hurt some companies because we enjoyed it, okay? So other than that, some of the international locations our office in Colorado deals with, and mainly because of gas and oil, the industries that are here and in these countries is Turkey, Mexico, Panama, and Canada. We do a fair amount of business with those countries from our office. Any other country that calls, we pretty much send them to Arizona, okay, to handle those. All right. So why ICS? Why? Obviously I'm biased, right? I'm wearing a shirt, okay? We bring integrity, period. If you compare us to others, this means a lot to us, okay? I had to let you guys go in the summer because they started exhibiting anti-integrity things, okay? Lie, cheat, steal, from me or anyone in my company, you're out of here. And we exude that onto our clients and we expect that relationship. We have to be honest with each other. And then my guys that work for me have to be honest as well, okay? So we're going to dispel some of the myths, I think, on the next screen about private investigators. But we bring integrity. If we tell you we're going to do something, we're going to do it. We don't mess around with saying it's going to cost $500 and then we bill you $650. We don't do that. There are companies that do. Unfortunately, we don't. Okay. We've had people call us and say, "Hey, this other company ripped me off. They didn't do anything for me. Can you do it?" Sure, we can, but they want us to do it for free. We're not funded by any 501c3 companies or anything else, so no, you have to pay us. You should have come to us first because we won't do that. We just don't do it. So that's one of the reasons in this industry. Okay. The other one, I still enjoy helping people, even though I'm not a cop anymore. I still enjoy helping people when either the cops can't help anymore, they're too busy to help, or someone just doesn't know where to turn. You call our office, my case analyst Sam answers the phone, and we will do everything we can to try to help, if we can. And if we can't help, that's the other thing that separates us with our integrity, we're going to tell you we can't help you. Sometimes there's things we can't do. Hollywood does us no favors. They make it look like you can do a lot of things, whether you're a PI or you're just using Google. a lot of those things are not true. So if someone calls and wants to know, you know, there's a lot of crazy examples. If we can't help, we're going to tell them. And we're not going to take a dime from them, okay? Some other things that set us apart administratively, ICS is based on law enforcement experience, not civilian. So guys that I look for, employees I look for, and guys is non-gender specific, right? It's men and women. It's based on the best practices that are out there for record keeping and report writing and everything to stay consistent with what might have to go to court. So if you go to court, they tell you in academies and they tell you when you're a new lawyer, you're based upon how you write. When they get your report before they even meet Joe Smith, they look at that, and if it's squared away, concise, informative, it's a good report. They're already judging that that's a good report. But if it's written on a napkin and it's garbage and you have to come testify, the other side, whether it's the defendant or the plaintiff, they know they're going to tear you apart because your report stinks. And so they're gearing to make you look bad, to discredit you. Okay? We strive for that not to happen. So we follow the common culture, which some of it's based on law enforcement, some of it's based on lawyers. And we do have a lawyer in ICS who is the chief operating officer out of Arizona, so he keeps an eye on all that stuff. Okay? Again, experience from 1967 as a company. There's some guys that still work in and around ICS have been doing it for like 30 years. So a lot of experience there. Okay? And resources. Again, the expertise based on my experiences, and then the people I look for that I want to bring into the company. Experience is key. And there is a place for young folks, new folks, in your educational field that can come into such a place and work up in through it, right? Because you have to learn somewhere. Okay? And then reliability. We're trained and motivated, period. Whether we're doing a training exercise or we're doing an investigation, that with integrity behind it, we're gonna do what we tell you we're gonna do. Okay? And be honest about it. Stereotypes. What are the stereotypes about investigations in the world? At least in this country, right? Questions? Anybody? Okay. People investigators are shady, right? They're unethical. You come to the office and the room's filled with smoke, right? Maybe there's beads hanging. I get those two comments all the time. I expect to see beads in your office. I'm like, what are you talking about? Okay? Our office looks like, if you go see the dean, it's going to look like his office, okay? For some reason, smoke and beads, I don't know. They think we have all these satellite link-ups and we're watching with NASA, because that's what you see on TV, right? They think we only look for cheating type cases because that's what's on TV, cheaters and catching my spouse cheating on me and I'm going to go down and confront them in the street and get in a fight and all that. That's not reality. That's not real. Okay? Now, there are some people that only do those types of cases and are unethical and are shady. Every industry has them. Okay, everyone. You work at IBM, there's probably a few of those in there. Unfortunately, our industry has them. Every industry has them. I'm sure there's some in the college, hopefully not, right? But that's the stereotype of private investigations. It's not true, okay? Unless you want it to be, okay? You can make a choice as an owner or as an employee at a company and be that way. Our company will root you out, but others can operate that way because we do come across them, unfortunately. There is a company out there trying to impersonate ICS. They're in Boulder. Unlicensed. We're going through that cease and desist process, but those things exist, okay? So you have to be careful, okay? The reality is that in the civil side, the system is broken in a way. So when I say the criminal side, a crime has been committed, you need law enforcement, whether it's an active crime or it's a crime that happened in the past, and they investigate to a certain point, and if there's not enough there, the cops go, well, it's under review, right? It's how it kind of sits. And I was guilty of that as a cop because my sergeants and everyone would say, hey, we're moving on to the next case. This case is cold until we get a lead. And so then it sits. So then now it can transfer to the civil side, which is where guys like me reside, lawyers, things of that nature, and you can investigate those cases and follow them through, following the laws. Okay, we can't kick in doors and break into someone's house and go look for the stolen weapon, even though we might want to. We can't break into, say bank accounts and do things that are just not lawful. The investigation side on the private side can be plentiful and bountiful. Okay, the skills that you need, you're learning some of those things in the criminal justice side, but then there's also the experience side. Okay, but there's some skills that we look for behind the knowledge that you're getting. The knowledge is huge; you need to have it. Okay, but some of the skills that we look for are you resourceful? Okay? If, just like a sales guy, if someone tells a salesman, no, I don't want to buy your widgets, and the sales guy goes, okay, great, and he leaves. Okay? Not a good salesman, because he got told no. He should be able, that person should be able to work through it. So you need to be resourceful as an investigator, because sometimes you think it's going to go down path A, but then something happens and now path B is going, you're on path B. You have to be resourceful with that and know who to call, how to operate in that realm. It goes with multitasking. A lot of times you're doing several things when you go to someone's house to interview them, okay? So you get an insurance case, we have to do a follow-up interview, okay? We get one of our clients out of Florida has a lot of those cases here in Colorado. So I'm going to go and talk to this person. I have to record their statement. I have to have note keeping. Okay, I'm doing a couple things at a time. They're telling me their story. I'm writing notes. Plus, I'm thinking of strategy of questions I have to ask. Okay, there's a lot going on in my head when I'm just sitting there asking questions. Okay, there's a strategy to that, and you have to be able to use the phone. You have to be able to use the internet, not just Google, but there's other things that aren't commonly known to pull resource information before you even go talk to somebody. Then if you want a surveillance investigation, that's even more. And surveillance is not just for cheaters. Surveillance we do on business due diligence cases all the time. We do it when you do apprehension. We'll talk about that. You got to be able to multitask. Okay? If you can only do one thing at a time, the second thing has to be able to come right on deck and do it as well. Okay? We look for those. When you come and work for us, there's tests that we're going to put you through, and part of the application process, can you multitask? Okay? You got to have common sense. Okay? Got to be able to think through someone else's drama, someone else's crisis. How do we think through that without emotion to try to help them? Okay? Whether it's a criminal or a civil issue. Okay? Folks have to know how to work digital electronics. Okay? Cameras, your phone, computers, those are key. Okay? And believe it or not, there's people out there that don't know how to work those things. So when they come to want to work for us and we want to send them an email, and they go, well, I don't have email. Why don't you have email? I just have never had an email account. Is that foreign to you guys? It's foreign to me, and I'm kind of an old guy now. Right? You guys are young. I'm sure you had email at like 6. Right? But when people don't have an email, then I know they can't work a computer. They're not going to be very good on the internet. Okay? If they don't have a smartphone, unfortunately, they probably can't work cameras. They can't work voice recorders. Okay? You got to be able to work those things, because we're just not set up to teach someone, here's how you work a computer, here's how you work a camera. We don't have time for it. Okay? Something that you can't teach but is developed in criminal justice, possess an investigative mindset. Okay? Can you deductively reason facts that are given you to work through that case and see what outcome could be there? Or if something's hidden and buried and concealed from you, how do you go around to try to uncover that? Okay? If it's on the criminal side, obviously, if there's a crime. You have to have that. We can't teach that, unfortunately. So if you're inquisitive, you want to know the who, what, why, where, when, and how, you're on your way. That's deductive reasoning. Report writing. Okay, it's dreaded. I spent half of yesterday writing reports. Stinks. Okay, but you have to be able to write reports. Okay, you have to be able to speak and write English. Sometimes we'll translate reports, but you have to be able to write reports. Okay. Now on the business side, those reports are your invoice. That's how you get paid. So when the case is over and you're sending invoices in, that's how you're getting paid if you're on the business owner side. And say you're working in our office and you're assisting the bookkeeper because you're doing some case management work. The case manager brings that report in, the product from one of our street investigators, and is processing it, and storing it, and putting it where it needs to be, cleaning it up. Sometimes when we had the intro program, we'd say, hey, Joe, can you look this over? Plus, it's also learning. You're seeing how the case went. You're reading those reports. Okay, you have to be able to write reports, and then that goes in. You get, as a company, we get paid for that, so that's a good thing. And then in turn, everybody gets paid. Right? The company's getting paid, and the people that work there are getting paid. Another thing that you have to be able to do is be able to interview people from all walks of life. You have to be able to talk to people. If there's somebody in there, I had to walk up to them and say, hey, what's going on, what's your name, where you live, where you're from, and just start asking questions. You have to be able to do that, okay? Sometimes it's a matter of, well, I'm not used to doing that, so you need to get exposure with that. So if maybe it's volunteer work or it's a job and you have to meet people and shake hands and so forth, you have to be able to talk to people, okay? There's times where there was, and I can't believe he worked for ICS, but he was in Maryland. And I had a case, and I was like, hey, I need you to do this case for me in Maryland. You're routed from Florida to Colorado back to Maryland. He didn't know how to interview people. He goes, I just do surveillance. I just take pictures from my car. That's very narrow scope. Okay, so I was like, what do you mean you can't go do an interview? I'll write you the questions up. Go interview this insurance case, it's a fraud case. He's like, no, I can't do it. I just take pictures. Well, for us, it's very narrow because in a given day, you may go interview 2 or 3 people. You may go do a surveillance. You may have to call law enforcement because you're working an apprehension case for us. There's a lot of things you have to do, so we like well-rounded, okay? All of them, though, everything we do, there's a report. Everything we do, we almost always have to talk to somebody. We have to talk to people, okay? We're always working electronics of some kind. And you have to have common sense and multitask, okay? Those are just outside skills that we look for at ICS. So if you guys apply to us, be ready to throw those out in the interview, and I'll be like, oh yeah, they're really on top of it, okay? Because I'm looking for those things, okay? Part of that, being able to talk to people, to build rapport. Can you go talk to someone who maybe you don't agree with them, maybe you don't think they're going to like you, or maybe you don't like them? You have to pretend that you do to build rapport, okay? Because if you build rapport with the subject, and usually that's what we call folks that we're interviewing, if you build rapport and they get comfortable with you, now they're going to start to talk to you. They're going to answer the questions, the hard questions you might be asking, but you always start with the easy questions, okay? Start with the easy questions, soften them up, and then they start to give you the information you want, okay? Got to build rapport. Because once you have the rapport, you're going to extract information from them, okay? That is huge, okay? We're going to talk about, I mentioned our state contract with Division of Youth Corrections. When they have their youth fugitives up to the age of 21, when they run or go AWOL from parole and some escape, there's DYC, which is the children under, well, it's up to 21. Then the adult DOC, which is Department of Corrections. Are you guys familiar with those two entities? Okay. When DYC kids run, we have a contract, we go find them, we go get them. And we work with law enforcement throughout the state. When we do that, we're interviewing family, friends, we're talking to people, we're knocking on doors, we're doing a lot of things to locate them. Building rapport is huge because maybe the brother doesn't want to turn his brother in. But we have to convince the brother, hey, it's in his best interest. He's going to get hurt. He's going to hurt somebody else. He's going to continue his drug life. We need to get him back inside for therapy and help him and get him cleaned up, especially before he's 18. If he keeps offending, he'll graduate into DOC and he'll just be an adult offender. Everything he does up to 18 is sealed. So once he's 18, if he cleans himself up, then he's a normal human being again, right? He can go get a job and so forth. So building rapport with family is huge for us. So again, we have to be able to talk to people. Okay? I talked about my case analyst, Sam. The way our structure at ICS is set up, the case analyst handles the intake. And the intake is basically people calling in with a potential case, people calling in with a case because they're already a client, or they email us, or online. We've got a couple different places that they can submit everything online, and we get an email that says, here's the information. So then Sam's job then is he calls to either confirm or get information, maybe it's billing information or case information. He gets those things before the case starts. The case then goes to the case manager, which Sam will be the case manager here pretty quick. We're going to replace Sam with another case analyst. Sam will then be the case manager. Right now I'm doing some of it, and one of my guys comes in and helps as well. Then the case manager manages the case. Who's going to work it? What area is it in? It's similar to a law enforcement function. So if we get a case for Colorado Springs, I have 2 investigators that work Colorado Springs. One of them get the case right away. If they're full, when we look at the calendar and go, look, they have too many cases, they can't work it, then we'll shift someone from Denver down here. Same thing, if the cases are all in Denver, Colorado Springs will shift and go north. Same with Fort Collins and so forth. We're broke down, they're larger regions than like a police response would be, but it's all based on geography, okay? So the case manager assigns that case, gets the data so the investigator can start the case. What are they doing? What research, what information do we have to support that field investigator? Okay? And typically people start with us as field investigators, and then they work their way up through the office and so forth. So then the field investigator, we hit up John in Westminster. John, we have this surveillance case. It's a criminal case. Supposedly there's an open drug market out front of the house. The mom has several criminal cases pending against her child because her granddaughter's in danger. We need data of whether that's happening or not. So he gets the information, where am I going, who am I looking for, what's their criminal background. So if he accidentally runs into them, is he going to be in fear of his life, or is it something that there's no bodily injury per se? So we set that case up, we send it to John. Then John gets it and he works it. John, when he's done, if he needs something in the field, he'll call in. This is what I got, can you run a plate? I talked to this person. Here's their phone number. He's going to give us that data, and then when he's all done, he's going to submit a report. He submits the report, his hours are also logged in our activity log off that report. That's how he gets paid, right? If you folks came through our ranks, that's how you would get paid. So as soon as your report comes in, you pay you, okay? Because then you're done. If there's more to do on that report or on that case, then it stacks up, and maybe it's a 2-weeker, so then it's a real big check. Or you may have 5 checks in a week, it just depends, because it's paid by the case, okay? It's easier administratively for us to do that. So then that work comes back to the case manager. Case manager finalizes everything, gives it back to the client, whether it's DYC, State of Colorado client, whether it's a regular person, or it's a business. Whoever the client that hired us then gets that work product. And then we make recommendations. Is there anything else that we can offer that maybe they want to do or not to do? If they authorize it, then we do it. And if they don't authorize it, the case is solid, it's closed, then we're done, okay? Then hopefully they liked our product, they call us back when they need us again. They give us a referral, okay? Hey, you gotta call these guys, they bailed me out last year. Then they call, okay? That's kind of how the office flows. My job is to make sure that all our wheels are turning and working. So I oversee SAM. I oversee the case management. I still go out and work. A couple of my guys are still in the military, so when they have to leave for their weekend training, we get short, which when they're all gone at the same time can be difficult, but then it makes me go and work the street, and I like working. Okay, I like going out there, plus I get to stay tuned up on what's going on, and then when my guys need help or support, I'm there to help and support them. Okay, some of the common case types that no background term is not just our background investigations, and we do backgrounds for literally a million things. We'll almost do a background on every case because we need to pull information, okay? So that background term is not just a pre-employment background, which is pretty non-invasive. A background can be a piece of information or a whole bunch of information, okay? We will do background work on almost every case type. Another common case type for us is a locate service. It used to be called a skip trace. Some people will call it, hey, they skipped. They need to find, little Johnny, little Sally. We call it a locate service. We will find people that have took off because financial predators are after them. They've taken off because they're just a missing persons. They just, hey, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm an adult. I'm just going to go do my own thing. Maybe there was a family beef, and 10 years have gone by, 20 years have gone by. And they're trying to reconnect, so we'll do locates that way. We'll do adoptive locates. Someone gave up a baby for adoption in the past, and now they want to try to reconnect, or that adoptive child wants to reconnect with their parents. If they have some data for us, we can push that forward. And I'll give an example here in a little bit. We have found people everywhere, and then sometimes we just can't because they don't have any information. A lot of times in adoptive agencies or adoptive cases, those records are sealed, and it's really hard to get it unsealed. But let me ask you guys this. Person A gave up their child 15 years ago. Sealed records. They call and go, what can I do? What do you guys think we should do? They tell me the records are sealed, attorney wants $2,000, can't promise they'll get the records unsealed, it's going to take 6 months to try to get it unsealed, I want to know in 2 weeks. What can you do, ICS? What do you guys think? What are some options we can do? We just got told they don't want to use an attorney, because we would offer, hey, maybe you need to use an attorney. We just got told the records are sealed, so they don't have a first name, they don't have a last name. What can we do? What do you guys think? Put you on the spot, come on. Yes, ma'am.
Would DNA testing possibly work?
If we had the other DNA test, which I'm going to give a good example for that. We need both parties for a DNA. Okay. What good you're thinking though? What's another way we can get around that? Maybe, sir.
Birth certificates.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Birth certificates or hospital records when they were born.
Okay. A lot of times those are sealed. Some of in the old days, they got put in a box or microfiche. Sometimes we can get in there. But let's say they call us and they're in Nebraska. And we're like, oh man, we got to get our Nebraska guy to go down there. What's another? It is an option, but it'll be lower on our list. What's another? Anything we can get around it? Other family members. Okay. Are you thinking that? Other family members know that their cousin, brother, sister, whatever, gave up a baby. So we go in and do that. Or that we tell the family, the client, hey, go talk to your aunt. And because sometimes the foster mom, or the adoptive mom rather, or adoptive parents don't want to talk about it, right? Because they know they were adopted. Go talk to a family member. Someone there knows what happened. Someone there will remember the name. They may have to dust the cobwebs off and go, man, I can't remember. But then all of a sudden, that's a great avenue. And more than half the time it works for us. So then the client comes back and goes, I got a name and an address from like 1982. Great, give it to us. We can take that then and find the adoptive, whoever the party is, we can find them. Okay, so there's always another way. Just got to think outside the box a little bit. Okay? Yeah, you go, oh, the records are sealed. Guess we can't do anything. Well, maybe. It just depends. You have to keep asking them questions. Who else was around? Who else was involved? Okay? That was real in my life. My mom gave a child up way back, and we found my half-brother by another family member. And so then, years later, I remembered that. I was like, hey, we did that same scenario in my life. So, I didn't invent that. That is a strategy, but that's, the dots got connected. We just fell into it, okay? So, that's locate services, okay? Asset investigations. People owe people money. Where are their assets? Do they have assets? We'll do asset checks. Simple ones from, do they own a car? Do they own a business? Do they own a house? Those are kind of the big ones, the main ones. If someone has a judgment, meaning a court has said that party A owes party B an X amount of money, you can then go look for financial records. Maybe we have financial records and there's a war going on. And so then we'll do what's deeper, and it's called forensic accounting. You guys heard that term? It's not just accounting like, hey, you got to pay your taxes every year and you go see the accountant. Forensic accounting is someone who can go through and find every penny, where did it go, and find out the smoke and mirrors, because there's smoke and mirrors in your financial records to make it look like you don't have any money and you really do. And so our accountant will get that information, not during tax season though, because they're busy doing taxes, but after March 15th or April 15th, they can do forensic cases and really go and look for assets. And some people will hide stuff overseas. Some people will hide it here in other names. We'll see the transfer. So then we go to court and say, Mr. Smith transferred his 3 cars, his business, and his home within a 7-day period to his spouse. Okay, that's not normal. It's very subjective, but it shows the court that, hey, this person's trying to hide their assets because they owe money to this other person. So then they can maybe put a lien on it, go get a judgment, or maybe it's a judgment enforcement, and you leverage them to where that person says, you know what, I owe you $80,000, I'll cut you 50 right now. It's up to the client whether they're going to take it. Or they could say, no, I want 80. Okay? That's the lawyer games at that point. But asset investigations can get pretty broad pretty quick, if they have them. Sometimes we'll do an initial asset check to see, do they even have anything worth going after? So you don't, does it make sense to spend $5 grand going to court to collect $1,000? Or spend 10 grand in court and they don't own anything, they don't have anything, they didn't transfer anything? It's a loss. And it stinks as the client, but they're only going to be out maybe $1 grand with us instead of going 10 grand with lawyer fees, court fees, our fees, and they don't have any money. But you can always wait. You can always collect that. Bring that beef up later and collect later. It's another option. Okay. Computer and mobile phone forensics, that's another common case type. It is expensive though. It's kind of the, we got meat eaters in here. You guys eat steak? What's the top steak? What is it? What's the best steak out there? Okay. New York strip, filet mignon. Forensics is kind of the filet mignon of services. Okay, if you were at the buffet and you got your buffet stuff, but then you're like, oh, I got filet mignon over there, and it costs 4 times the price. Forensics reflects that. Not just anyone can do forensics on a computer or a mobile device, and that's all computers, iPads, iPhones, all everything. It takes someone who really knows how to do that. It's very specialized. They spend a lot of money, and I'm sure there's people in this college that go to school for this. They spend a lot of time and money on that and the equipment. So in turn, when those services need to be, done, it's expensive. Okay, to go through a computer through the back, and basically they tear it apart in computer language. I don't know enough. I don't do it. We give it to our lab guy, but they hook up to all these computers, and in a few days he calls me back with a report and goes, here you go, here's what we got. Usually it's for lost data. Could be for breaches. If someone breached a business computer, a lot of times that's where that's a problem, because maybe it was espionage of some kind, corporate due diligence, and someone broke the law trying to break in and beat their competitor, and usually it's big companies. Even small companies will do it. or they lost data on their phone, or an employee got fired and they've been locked out of their own computer and there's data on there and they need it. Our forensics guy, if we have the legal ability, the legal right, will breach that phone and get in. Okay, the whole thing about the shooter from San Bernardino and iPhone or Apple not wanting to breach that phone, right? You guys watch the news on that? Kind of touchy on that and privacy issues and so forth. Apple doesn't want the government to know how they breach their phone. Can it be breached? Yeah, with enough smart people and equipment. But they're fighting over the fact, in my opinion, they're fighting over the fact of they don't want to reveal how to do that. Because his phone was not just a regular phone like this, but that guy's phone, the bad guy who's dead, it was encrypted, so it's a lot more difficult. So if someone brings us an encrypted phone, we probably aren't going to do it because the legal reasons aren't going to be there, kind of like Apple and the government right now. There's some legal issues. But we can, under the right circumstances, do forensic work, but it's expensive. So people will call and go, hey, I deleted this, whatever, you know, can you guys fix it? And it's something so trivial that you're like, no, that's ridiculous. Because the price is like $700 to start. It's expensive. Okay, if you lost someone's phone number from the bar a week ago, probably not worth it, okay? But you've got term papers, you got whatever big for school, and maybe someone locked you out or they stole your phone, you got the phone back and it's been changed or what have you. I mean, that's kind of a silly example for I'm trying to think of where it would work for you guys, but it's expensive, okay? So you really only, we do less of those because they're screened really hard because they're such a high price tag, okay? It's something that you don't do willy-nilly, okay? Surveillance, another common case type for us. Surveillance has a million reasons to go and spy on someone. That's basically what we're doing. We're blending into the environment, we're watching, we're recording data, and we're making notes, okay? Due diligence on business, okay? Someone's gonna sell a business. This happens all the time. Someone pretends that they're gonna sell a business to a prospective buyer. They exchange money, but no one investigated either side of that, and come to find out that person doesn't own the business. There was a nail salon down here at the Citadel Mall a couple years ago, and the lady thought she was buying this nail salon from this guy. She gave him a large check. He gave her a key that fit no lock. She showed up at the nail salon, couldn't get in. And then the owner walked up and was like, what are you doing? You're trying to break into my nail salon. And she said, no, I just bought it. She said, no, you didn't. I own the nail salon. No due diligence was done. The person who says they're selling the business, are they? Right? Was anything checked on the Secretary of State website? Are they listed as a registered agent? Do they have the authority to sell the business? Nothing was checked. Copies of IDs, I asked her, I said, did you get a copy of that person's ID? No. What's his name? It was like Joseph. It was something ridiculous. You have an address, you have a phone number, you have date of birth. You know the car he drove, something that we can research to figure out who that was? Nothing. Just wrote a check for like 75, okay. We had nothing to go on, right? Due diligence, okay? One of the guys that I've done protection work for in California was doing a business venture, and he remembers me telling him this because we spent a lot of time together as I was making sure he didn't get shot or killed or kidnapped. And so he was going into business with a guy, and it had to do with the medical field. And he was a doctor, and he's like, I just want to make sure that everything he's claiming is real. No problem. Give me 2 weeks. So we looked into it. He was really a doctor. We found a few things that didn't quite add up because he said that his wife had died. He made some other claims, but the big one that his wife was not dead. She was a drug offender in California, was in and out of jail for possession of every narcotic you can think of. And so after looking at all the facts, we didn't make a judgment and go, oh, this guy lied to you. This guy was embarrassed. The doctor was embarrassed because he's going to do a medical deal, and does he want people knowing that his wife, who's a drug addict, ex-wife, may come into the picture and steal from him or take from him or cause problems? He was embarrassed by that, so he just said, well, she's dead. So I told my friend, I said, hey, this is what we found. This is a little gray, but here's what I think is going on. Maybe you want to ask before you just wipe this deal clean. And so they worked it out, and the doc admitted, yeah, that's what it was. He goes, I don't want her coming and ruining what I have, and she's a nutcase, and she's always in jail and uses dope, and she's going to come into their clinic and steal their narcotics. I mean, that's a big deal because she had priors for all those things. And so they were able to save the deal and put some other measures in place, but that's what due diligence is. Make sure if you're in a deal with someone that it's real, okay? And it can be really complex or really small, okay? Fact finding, Lots of fact finding. And it may just be a compartmentalized piece. A lot of what we do is compartmentalized. We don't always know the end of it or how we got there. Lawyers will call. One called the other day. It was Thursday, or maybe it was Friday last week. And we just done a case for him, and so this was a new client to us 2 weeks ago, and now we got another case out of him, so he liked what we did. So he calls, he goes, hey, my witness from last year is gone. I can't find him. He's like, can you work it up? I'm like, yeah. So I stayed late because I want to knock your socks off. And in 2.5 hours, found the guy, sent him the information, and the lawyer goes, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm like, I gave you his numbers, his address. I don't know if the emails are any good. I'm like, call the numbers and see, because people change phone numbers like they're everywhere, okay? It's so easy to get a different phone number that he had a couple. So I said, call the numbers and see if he's there, and if not, we'll go knock on his door. And so he's like, okay. In 10 minutes, he called back. He goes, I just talked to him. He's coming in tomorrow, so we can refresh he was a witness in a lawsuit. Boom. Okay, we did it. And all we needed was this much information. It's just fact finding. Okay. Work comp cases. If you pretend to be injured, and people hire us to go see if you're really injured, we're gonna find out if you're lying. If you're really hurt, I'm sorry. I hope you feel better. Good luck. If you're lying, we're gonna catch you. Because that's why one of the reasons our insurance rates are so high. People fake injuries, they want a check to support them for the rest of their lives. If they're really hurt, then by all means, okay? If they're faking it, then no way, because that's not right. So work comp, that's what workers' compensation is. Sometimes hired by the business because they think they're being taken advantage of, and then sometimes by the law firm who's representing one side or the other. Okay? We got any work comp folks in here? I'm just teasing. All right. Service of process, that is serving legal documents, which is a fancy way to say, hey, you're invited to court, okay? People don't like it. People think they're warrants for their arrest for some reason. People don't like getting the paperwork because it's bad news because hey, you got to go to court. Usually because you're being sued, sometimes as a witness. But we'll serve papers. It's not our primary thing. There are companies out there that just do service of process, and in my opinion, there's just real no money in it. There's no money to pay the guy who does it. There's no money to keep our lights on because it's just a low. But as part of a case, we work a big case up, then we'll go serve the papers. Okay, and usually when we get them as a standalone service, it's a hard serve, which means someone is ducking, hiding, trying to conceal where they're at, and a regular process server who's got 50 in a day to do doesn't have time to play games and go find them. So then we'll get the case and we'll play games. We'll do surveillance, we'll do some background, we'll wait for them to work, we'll serve their work, we will find out all we can about them and then put those papers in their hand. Okay? All it is an invitation to sit in court and answer for whatever the beef is. Yeah, it's no fun, but that's a component. Okay? Marital issues, usually, the cheating thing, surveillance is the easiest way to find out if someone's doing something they shouldn't be doing. Tracing phone numbers, spouses on both sides of the fence. We'll have a list of numbers and go, these numbers I'm not sure about these, can you look these numbers up? And we'll do that. Not using Google, because that's not accurate. There's other ways to do that we have access to. And we'll look and go, here are the names of the people, and then they'll go, that's the one. And then sometimes not. So sometimes we prove infidelity, and sometimes we prove that it's not infidelity, you guys are just having a relational issue. So then you know that. So then the client can work out their relational issue. It's not always infidelity. Okay? But between men and women calling us, it's 50-50. It's just as many men call as just as many women. Okay. Child custody cases, usually it's because there's a really bad parent and there's a court order that says they can't do certain things with their child. Maybe they went into the sex assault arena, okay? They can't be around children unsupervised and so forth. Maybe they beat children, and so there's certain rules that they have to have. That's usually where we'll do surveillance on them to monitor them and make sure that when they have their kids, or if they're not supposed to have their kids, we'll put them on video and find out. Okay, those can be real touchy, but again, the cops aren't going to do it, so we'll do it. Okay. Theft cases, you steal something, and if the trail goes cold, or the cops are just like, hey, we've got 20 of these, and we're working our way through it, we will come and take that as a case and give it a lot of attention. We'll talk about an example of that here in just a little bit, theft cases. Also theft from inside a business, not just someone stole my car, that kind of thing, but inside a business we can do undercover employee, and that's elaborate because only certain people can know about it. And so, because basically they're going to pretend to hire us, we're going to have phony names, and one of my guys is going to come in there and he's going to work, and and cozy up to everyone and find out the dirt, right? Who's who in the zoo, so to speak. And so if all management knew, then somewhere there'd be a leak. So really the hiring manager and like one other person knows. And it's a surprise to everybody. And they're in there, and it's usually a long case, it's usually at least 30 days. So it's a lot of work. It can be unsafe, but if you put it together correctly, they'll never know, and then the people involved stealing will get caught, okay? Apprehension, okay? Talked about that a little bit. State of Colorado Division of Youth Corrections, we have their contract. So when someone runs, escapes, AWOLs, either from a locked facility, a regular facility, or they're just out in the community because they're working their way back, and they deviate, and maybe they had a hot UA, or they did something wrong and the parole officer says, okay, I'm going to violate you, and if they take off, we get the case. Last year we did, it was either 176 or 182, I can't remember the number. We'll just go with the lower one. We did 176 cases for them last year, and we have 92% back in custody from last year. And out of those 20%, out of the 90%, 20% of them, they just got caught by chance, so we count them as in custody, but we weren't directly involved. The other 80%, we were directly involved. And so we work with a lot of law enforcement agencies. Colorado Springs is actually a great one, the impact team. You guys done anything with CSPD? Any kind of, okay. If you do any kind of volunteering, explore, or you're looking to work in those arenas, Colorado Springs is a great agency. Okay? They have 4 impact teams, which are special units. We call them directly and go, hey, we got so-and-so, here's where they're at, we got eyes on, and then they come and we orchestrate a plan and we go get that person. And versus calling dispatch, like everybody else would have to, and that can take time and so forth. But CSPD is a great agency, so is El Paso County. Okay? And then training. We do training. We train security folks. We have a government contractor who contracts us to train their folks in firearms, because they are security personnel in a government capacity, and that's all I can really tell you. Some of them are great shooters and some of them aren't, but we get them all tuned up, we teach them how to shoot, teach them how to use their weapons, because if they're going to use it for work, we can all agree they should probably shoot effectively if they have to, right? So we train those folks. We do empty hand defense training. Sam, my case analyst, on the weekends does combatives training, which is the Army version of hand-to-hand defense. It's a mix of Muay Thai and Krav Maga, and he is a badass. But we teach classes from real basic all the way up. It can be custom to a group of friends that just want to learn some skills. To 2 weeks ago, we did a church because they've got security teams because the place it's violent everywhere these days. So they wanted to learn some things, so we taught them, and then just regular folks. So we do that part of the training as well, and then we'll also do security consulting, which is another vast area of stuff. Any questions so far? I know we're kind of cruising along. Okay. So actually that's training from 2 weeks ago. Just to hit that real quick. Firearms training, we do CCW. So if you guys are in a concealed carry, we do that. Security personnel for our one government client, but we also do it for others as needed. Okay. And then we do basic and advanced courses, pistol, rifle, shotgun, and then the empty hand, the combatives, roll around. How do you defend yourself? And there's lots of ways to do that, but we have our way, and so that's our training. Physical security, the other side that we do underneath our consulting umbrella, we'll do personal protection, executive and dignitary protection. They're not always dignitaries. Maybe they're just highfalutin people, and they think they have some stature. We actually had it was last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. A couple, husband and wife, were here from back east, and they're kind of some big shots, and they call and say, hey, we're meeting our daughter who has gone wayward, and she's got a crazy boyfriend. We want you guys to protect us. So we'll have something that basic up to a CEO or some other larger entity that requires such protection, because it's expensive too. Okay, it's not cheap. Threat assessments. We'll do threat assessments, which kind of go hand in hand with the site survey. That's at facilities. How do you harden a target? Have you guys heard those terms in criminal justice? How do you harden a target? Okay. So like the college, how do you protect this college? Okay, I'm sure there's cameras here, there's barriers here, you can't drive anywhere, there's armed police here, I'm sure there's some security folks too. There are probably things in this campus that you don't see or know, but they're in place as part of a site survey or a vulnerability assessment or a threat assessment. Those terms can sometimes get interchanged. It's how do you harden that. So maybe you start a business up when you get out of here, and maybe you go and become a lawyer. Well, lawyers deal with some people that get upset just like we do. So you want to have locks on your doors. Maybe you want to have some cameras. Maybe you want to have key card access. All those things are part of what could be a threat assessment. Or someone threatens to kill you. That could happen too. We'll do a threat assessment on a person. Who are they? Where are they from? What's their deal? What do we know about them? And we will try to get inside their head, because we know how to do that, to use to our advantage to protect someone. Okay? And then I mentioned church security training and consulting. Any large body of people that gather anywhere for any reason, we'll do consulting for that. War stories. I don't always like war stories, but these are real case types, just so you can see some of what goes on. It might pique your interest, or you might go, oh, that's ridiculous. But missing persons. People will just take off for all kinds of reasons, not always criminal in nature. They weren't kidnapped. But family want to know what happened to their loved one or their friend. Okay? We get these quite a bit. And we had one that was actually in the news here in Colorado. It was 2 years ago. And this person was underage by about, her birthday was about 8 to 10 days away when she took off. Half the family said she was kidnapped. Half the family said, no, she's just a rebel, trying to do her own thing. Well, we ended up getting some information from the family. Half the family that hired us, she went to California, to Venice Beach. I called our California office because I didn't want to go out there. It'd be too expensive for the client. So the cheapest thing was to shift it to our California office. I called Mark, they're in Anaheim, which isn't too far from Venice. Called them up, said, here's what we got. We think she's in Venice. Can you guys go out there and do your thing? So they went out 2-person in Venice, because Venice is kind of a rough part of the beach these days. It's not the fancy kind of in the movies you see Venice Beach. It's not like that anymore. It's kind of rough. So they went out 2-person and found the car that she took out there, because it was her mom's car. Found the boyfriend, or learned that the boyfriend was arrested like 2 nights prior. Come to find out, we found out she was there, but then the other mom, because it was a split family, towed the car when she was living in the car, because you could tell when you looked in it, sleeping bag, blankets, food wrappers, you could tell someone's living in it, right? Yeah, from that common sense we talked about before, you just know that someone's living in it. Well, the one mom had her car towed when we wanted it to stay because she would have come back to it. Well, it took 2 more days, she came back to where she left the car, and she was arrested. Because while she was a missing persons, she committed some crimes under someone else's name, and the cops found out about it, so she got jammed up. Okay? And then she became 18, and now those charges went into adult. So she shot herself in the foot. But that's a missing person case. We had another one back east. The son ended up out here in the homeless community in Denver, and my best guy, who is in Colorado Springs, went up to Denver downtown, and in 8 hours found him. He can snoop out anybody. He's the man. Okay? Kidnap children. That will happen too, and usually it's under the guise of child custody issues. If you violate a child custody order, it can be kidnapping, okay? We had a client from Israel who was in Colorado. They frequent Colorado and Chicago, back and forth. Going through a divorce, had child custody. The mom was not allowed to take her 2 kids back to Israel. He had paperwork from a Jerusalem court and paperwork from a Colorado court. We got wind that she was going to try to sneak him out of Chicago. Called our Chicago office. He had his guys in place because we had a feeling of when she was going to leave. There's not that many flights from Chicago to Israel. Right? So we kind of knew when that was going to happen. She pulls up in the car. He walks up to her at the ticket stand and said, ma'am, you're not allowed to leave. I have both court orders here. She made a big scene. DHS came out. Cops came out. They commotion in the airport, but stopped her from taking her kids to Israel. Father showed up, got his kids back. Okay? That was essentially kidnapping. She was violating that order. We had a fur coat caper at an Inverness hotel a few weeks ago. There was an event at the Inverness, and they did a coat check. This lady had a fur coat that was in the family for, I don't know, 50 years. It had a humongous price tag. Coat checked it. Hotel had no security, no control over that closet. At the end of the event, someone took her fur coat. The hotel said, too bad. This person whose coat was taken was family to the event person who has events at this hotel every week. He brings a lot of money to the hotel, a lot of money, and they told him, too bad. They called us, we went down to the hotel, we rattled their cage a little bit, said, you guys are complicit. You're complicit in this person stealing the coat, and that's what's going to go on your Facebook page. Now all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, can we get the surveillance footage for you? We're like, yes, you can. Thank you, right? Sometimes you have to leverage them and convince them to do the right thing. The right thing would be, let me get that tape, let's look and see who took it. So it took them about a day or two. We had to deal with their lawyer, who's in California, and it's a hotel, it's here, it doesn't make much sense, but we had to convince that lawyer to do the right thing. They gave us the footage. We couldn't tell who was who. We took it to the person who lost the code, and we're like, hey, who is it? Because you can see who grabbed it, but facial recognition is not like TV, and we don't have access to some of it until we prove a crime. So the owner or the client looked at it, he goes, I'm not sure who that is, and he goes, hey, he got his staff, and they looked at it, and he goes, oh, that's so-and-so, he's dating so-and-so, that's, he gave the names, that's who took the code. And we're like, no kidding. So now we researched both those people. How do we find them? Where do they live? Where do they work? What car do they drive? What is everything about them? Found her. She was living with her sister. Knocked on the door. Hey, so-and-so here, blah, blah, blah. And the sister's like, no, she's not here right now, but she does live here, right? She said, yeah, who are you? So we tell her the story. She was the good sister. She's like, oh my God, she's such a da 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 da. The other sister is of criminal nature. In and out of jail, trouble, just... So the older sister, we then got her to help us. We said, look, we're going to press charges, or the client's going to press charges, unless you help us get the code back. Client just wants the code back, that's all we want. Is it in the closet? Can we come and look? She gave us consent. My guys went in. It was not in the closet. That night, well, let me back up. She called sister while we're there, read her the riot act, and then my guy, Marco, my agent, drilled her a little bit. Because we were past niceties, we knew she had the code. She goes, I'll have the code there tomorrow morning. We're like, if it's not here at 9 a.m., we're going to come and get you arrested. We know where you're at. We're going to bring everybody. You're going to go down. So 9 a.m. the next day, sister walks out, code, a nice little coat jacket. We're really sorry. It wasn't damaged. Client was ecstatic. Okay, hotel was happy. It's kind of a crazy case, right? It was a fur coat worth some big, big money, and we were able to find it using the same techniques that we do on all cases. Maybe some more than others, maybe a little bit, but the interviewing, background research, digging up information, going and talk to them, leveraging people, we do that all day long, but different case types, okay? Some not that exciting. That was actually a really good case. I didn't think, I was like, damn, Marco, you actually found it. I didn't think you would. None of us did. We were like, well, let's just go through the motions and see what we got. You found it. Okay, domestic cases, marital cases, we call marital cases domestic because domestic unions, right? It can be male, female, or any mixed match. We had one that was in 3 states that just happened, and this is about report writing, right? Well, so bear with me for a second. Client was in Texas. Husband, she worked for a big oil company. Okay, so she was high on the totem pole. Her husband she suspected infidelity. He came to Denver, downtown. Got him on tape with the girlfriend, solid. He went to Pennsylvania on another trip, got him there, solid. Went to Aspen, we weren't so lucky because of logistics and where he was. We couldn't get good footage, but it was assumed. We knew who he was with, but we didn't catch them together. She takes it to court, because in Texas, cheating is a crime. Okay? Plus, she is the moneymaker. She does not want to lose. So she is putting all the nails in the coffin. Okay? So she calls and goes, hey, I need the investigator for Denver to testify. Okay? And I didn't mention that earlier. Sometimes we have to testify to our work, right? The report usually is enough if we do it right. But she goes, I need your guy to come to Houston. I'm like, the Denver agent knocked it out of the park. Video, got them together, report. But what happened was the husband implicated himself at a deposition and said, oh, I was never in Denver, and then had his mom lie and say at the same date and time, he was never in Denver. He was at my house in Dallas, Texas. Well, on that date and time, he was in Denver, downtown hotel. So that's why they needed my guy from here to go. Well, he was in the military, and he was actually in Texas, but not Houston, so we flew him there and got him there. So they had his report, and it was a solid report, because he's a first sergeant. Okay, first sergeant's like a high-level manager in the military, so he could write a report. So it was solid, and I'm like, bro, I don't know what the angle is, but, you know, so we got prepped for court and all that. So he walks in. The other side knew the report was solid, but they were bluffing. They wanted him to show up so they could, you know, go and try to rattle him and make him look stupid. But when he showed up, he's about this tall, sergeant, big, strong, tough guy, talks real gentle though, looks like a cowboy. But he walked in there, and he goes, here's my report, here's my resume, and they looked at it, And they were like, we'll settle. Now it stunk that he had to go there to do that. They should have done that first. It cost her a lot of money. But rapport was solid, he showed up, he was professional, won the case. She thanked us up and down. Great. Tell your friends, thank you. Okay? That's the kind of stuff that we'll do, because if everything falls in place, we're going to do a good job. Child locate, adopted parents, Miss Clark, she gave up her child in Oregon, and it was like 38 years ago, because he's an older man now. No offense to anybody at that age. She gave us some information, it was basic. We had her go back and ask some other family members for a little bit more. We did a bunch, and all we had was a first name in the city he was born in, because it was a small town in Oregon at the time. Well, now it's a humongous town in Oregon. So we had 75 possibilities because of name and logistics and so forth. When we ran those, and I said, look, usually we get like 5 and we can weed it out. I said, you got to go through here, and we helped her to protect herself so you don't get any whack jobs that go, oh, I'm your son, give me some money, because that happens too. So we were real careful with her case, and it took her about 6 months, and got an entry back, and working through the process, it was her kid. Like the pictures, everything matched. He knew things that only she knew, that we were the go-between. We had him go through us first. And then who was the one that asked about DNA? Then we said, because we offered recommendations, we're like, Ms. Clark, let's do a DNA test to make sure before you guys meet. We don't, because we cared about her, right? We care about all our clients, but some of you care a little more, right? She had that mom effect. So she came in, we swabbed her in Oregon, our contacts there, had him meet, swabbed, mailed it, DNA, 99%. Boom. And then they met, and it was solid. Great reunion. She's got grandkids, like opened doors up on both sides. It was awesome. That's the kind of work that we can throw together. Okay? And we have. Marital DNA test. Unfortunately, that one's it's not as exciting. Husband thought his wife was cheating. He had some undergarments. We did a DNA check to see if it was his. It was not. So proved infidelity. Okay? Not a happy ending, but it was for him, because he realized, hey, she was lying to him, because there was a whole bunch of other drama there. That's the Reader's Digest version of this. We only had one set of DNA. You had asked about DNA. But this one we were looking to see if it was his. We swabbed him, took the sample versus the undergarments. They didn't match. Okay, infidelity. Background locates for people, businesses, lawyers, insurance cases. All types, all walks of life. Okay. The Ivan case in Mexico. Anyone here ever bought property? Has anybody bought property yet? Have your folks bought property? Okay. When you sell a piece of property, so let's say a cabin, your home, you never front money up front. Maybe the appraisal, but usually you bring money at the closing. And if you owe money, you'll be cleared then, or through the sale of the house, your debts get paid, and that title transfers. You don't bring money ahead of time. This gentleman was supposedly selling a piece of property in Mexico with an American company, and they built him like 4 or 5 different times for a total of about 10 grand. And he was like, they still haven't sold my property, and they keep asking me for money. And we're like, Ivan, are you kidding me? We're like, even if you sell property in Mexico, you don't bring money up front. You bring money at the end if you need to. If you have a loan and you're upside down. He goes, I have a feeling I got ripped off. We're like, you did get ripped off. He goes, but I want you to prove it. Okay. Here's how much it's going to cost. Let's get the paperwork going. Let's get your case info. The company, there were 2 companies, one in Utah, one in San Diego. Both were phony, not registered. Phone numbers were blackjack phone numbers, so they weren't real phone numbers. Both companies in Utah and San Diego had websites that were made in Puerto Vallarta, and it was called like NeoBox. It was like a Mexico-based internet company with a person, Spanish name, phone number, different email. That was both those companies, but they were supposedly separate. So we dug all this information up, did some stuff in Mexico, gave it to them, and said, here's your proof. You got took. Sorry. Will we find this guy? It now transfers to Puerto Vallarta. The guy's name that's listed there, very common Hispanic name. I said, that's where we need to go next. And he's like, I'm done. He pulled the pin. Because he didn't want to be out any more money. He was out the money to us, he was out the money, he got ripped off. But we were able to pull all the resources, again, using the same things, interviewing him, record research, assets in Mexico, the whole thing. Okay? So the foundation's the same for each case, just some are more than others. We do GPS cases. If we're allowed to put a GPS on a vehicle, who knows the laws on that? Someone calls and goes, I need a GPS, I want you to put it on this Honda. Can we do that?
Public areas?
No? I'm sorry?
In public areas?
No? Only if the person owns the car. Okay? So usually it's husband and wife, that kind of thing, but if they're not on the title of the car, they can't put a GPS on the car. But if they have access to the car, they have a key to the car, and it's understood and implied that the spouse lets them drive to the car, go to the store, and they can just go, they can put the GPS in the car, like in a bag or a gym bag or whatever. But to just go and put a GPS arbitrarily on someone's vehicle, they have to be on the title. Okay? We've got a couple of those cases running right now. We had a stolen Subaru case. Car dealership somewhere in the state of Colorado had a very fancy sporterized Subaru, about 35K, gets stolen. The monitoring company, the security monitoring company, had some data. They picked out someone who had cased that car 2 days prior at the same time frame. We took that information, researched it, went to their house, knocked on the door. The family of that person who took the car was there. He gave us some really good information. He admitted that his sister's a criminal and gets into trouble, and she's the mess, and this guy's not. It was a really nice house. So we took all those pieces of information, found her. She came back from Florida. We rattled her cage a little bit by approaching her, calling her, and so forth. And in about a week, produced the car. Because the case kind of, we thought was cold. The client called and said, hey, she just turned the car in, and the guy driving it, we had him arrested. Thank you so much. So I'm like, cool. I'm like, because we weren't there when it happened, but the work that we did made her get the car back, and then the guy thought he was going to get away, and he got nabbed. So even a stolen vehicle case, we can help him. All right, so that's it. Case types that we do. Down and dirty on how our office works. Some of the other offices don't do physical security like we do. So you can take those out if you're not into those things, the training and physical security component. But the investigation side is pretty, I don't want to use the word standard, but that's our foundation. That's what ICS is about. How does that translate to you folks? You can, when you get out there, get some experience. Maybe you go into law enforcement, great. Maybe you don't, that's fine. Maybe you want to go be lawyers. Just to be honest, lawyers, okay? The 2 times we got stiffed on payment, both times were attorneys in 4 years, okay? They're cheapskates, they don't pay, they're unethical also. But not all of them, right? There's good people in every aspect. You guys have a lot of places to go with criminal justice degrees. The key thing now is use that education and for experience, whether it's volunteer or paid, either one, okay? Whether it's in law enforcement or not. Definitely do something to get a piece of the criminal side and the civil side and see which one you like, and then go into it head first, right in the deep end. Okay? If you're young, get that experience, and if you're older and you're switching, still get that experience. It applies to you too. Okay? Questions?
How long do you guys have the DYC contract?
Since January of 2015. That's it? Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask you about some of your hiring practices and how often that you have turnover in your agency, or
Good.
that you're seeking
Sure.
new staff.
As far as hiring, our hiring practice, because of my background, kind of mimics what a law enforcement agency would have you do, except for a test. Basically, we have you apply online, because that way we start your file digitally. Then there's an application process. We interview at least 2 times. We background everybody. And then there's an email writing test where we're going to get on the phone with you and have a scheduled time. And we're going to send you email correspondences. And if you can't email correspondence back professionally, effectively, that's part of the test. Okay. It might sound harsh, but there's a reason. We want to make sure you can put a sentence together. We want to make sure you can send email, because we do everything, almost everything we do is electronically. And then once that happens, and when we're hiring, we'll take the people that have applied in the last 30, 60, 90 days, and then everyone goes through, because not everyone still wants the job, or they come into other stuff. So we wind that down until we get 1 or 2, 3 good candidates, and then we hire whatever we're looking for.
Are you receptive to accepting applications of students that may be interested in working in that California office or the Texas office?
Sure.
Arizona?
Yeah, if you guys go to another state when you leave here, you can definitely go to any other ICS office, tell them, hey, I heard that clown from Colorado give a spiel, and can you guys hook me up? You mean, then they'll call and say, did that happen? Because they'll poke around to see if it's true. I'll say, oh yeah, ICS, you bet. So yeah, that can happen. So by all means, take advantage if you can. If those are the areas you're in, you bet. But beware of the licensing for each state. They're all a little different. Colorado won't let us operate with one license. Everyone has to have a license. So if you go to, like California though, you can work underneath their license. If you go to like Pennsylvania, I don't know the rules there, but so be aware of that wherever you go. Yes, ma'am.
What does the licensing process look like?
Are we still on tape? It's through Colorado DORA, which is the Department of Regulatory Agencies. And in Colorado, you have to fill out the application, take a jurisprudence test. It's open book, so you can look all that up. So pass jurisprudence test, apply, pay your fee because they want their money, and then background check, submit fingerprints, and you're good to go. In Colorado, there's 2 license types. If you have no experience, you can get a type 1. You just have to pass all the things I just mentioned. And then if you have 2,000 hours of experience, which is I think how they figured it was like 2 years or 3 years of credible experience, then you get a type 2. No one's ever asked us, are you guys type 1 or type 2? I am a type 2. I think all my guys but one are a type 2. It doesn't matter to the client. We screen our people pretty hard, so if you've got a type 1, but you got your stuff together and you're a good candidate, we'll take it. Type 1, type 2 doesn't matter.
Do those licenses expire?
Yes, and I believe it's every 2 years. No, it was every year, because I'm confused with voluntary. It's either every year or 2. They'll send me a notice and I'll write them a check. I don't remember. Yes. Oh, they had a question. Anybody else? Was this helpful to you guys? Did it give you some insight into the PI side from the, from school and whatnot? You'll probably either become lawyers, investigators, or cops of some kind, and then there's some other variances in there, but that's where I think most, at least when I went to college, that's where most criminal justice folks went. Am I wrong, or
No, sir.
is that about right?